Good evening, everybody. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm so happy that folks have joined us for the first webinar of this school year session. We'll be doing 12 during the next several months and on a whole host of topics. And so Amy Gaffney had the recommendation to do this as the first one, realizing that many of families are doing a lot of e-learning. And so this is going to be about, let's get set up for in-home learning. Amy Gaffney, who is an educational consultant with the Indiana Resource Center for Autism, who is also a speech language pathologist and a Teach Certified Advanced Consultant, is joined by Jared Piper, who is a BCBA, is an autism consultant, and is the proud dad of 3 young daughters. So, Amy, the next slide. So again, I want to thank you for joining us. The webinar is being recorded, so we've muted all your microphones. The presenters are going to speak for about 30 or 35 minutes. In order to ask questions, what you need to do is click the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. Check send anonymously if you wish others not to see your name. The chat box has been turned off. If there's questions about a specific child or a difficult situation, that probably is going to require a little bit more time with one of us, and so please feel free to email me for further discussion. After this session, you will receive a handout of resources and a certificate of attendance. It'll be at a later date. And then we're looking at posting these webinars on YouTube and via Facebook. So Jared, Amy, thank you for doing this.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and we just hope that we will be able to share some ideas tonight with you. And then again, if you have further questions, there'll be time at the end, but also anytime you'll have Kathy's email and my email. Feel free to email us if we can help you in any way, maybe talking about a certain room in your house or something that you want to set up. But Jared and I are going to focus on 4 main areas tonight. The first one being setting up the furniture and all of the learning materials that your kids are now either bringing home or they're using from home more often than they have been in the past. Then we're going to talk about the use of some supports, including calendars, schedules, and to-do lists. We'll talk about creating maybe some new routines in your home to help you get through the day. And then we've got a few just extra supports at the end that we'll share. So starting with furniture and materials, it's really important to think about while your kiddos are at home, arranging the furniture. So for instance, in our house, we chose our living room, and that started to, we started to think about how we could move some furniture around. We know it's temporary, but since my daughter is home for the entire school year doing virtual learning, that was something that we knew we needed to have a daily spot for her to go to. So we want to have, again, a consistent location. So knowing where this is the spot in my house that I'm going to do school each day, or even if you are on a hybrid, or you just want to kind of have some of these things in the back of your mind as you prepare for maybe your kids will be home a little bit more this year, depending on how the school calendar goes. Make sure you have that location in your house that's designated as the school work location. This can also be helpful just as a homework location when the kids are not learning from home. But you want to make sure that that area also blocks distractions so that you can increase the focus on the schoolwork. Make sure all your materials are close by so your kids aren't getting up and running around the house trying to find a pencil or trying to find that crayon that's rolled under the couch. And so sometimes labeling things to make supplies a little bit more easy to find is also helpful. So I'm going to start by showing you some pictures of some room setups. There might be something in this room that catches your eye that you think you might want to replicate in your house. But really you need a corner is what we found out. So the one classroom on your left with the maps on the wall, that's a little bit more plain. There's not a lot of things on the wall. There's a few things, but if you notice, the child is going to sit with their back to those things. So this is actually my house, and so we set up the TV so that my daughter's computer plugs into the TV to give her a bigger screen so she can see things better, but we also needed a lot of the stuff to be at her back so it wasn't distracting to her. The other side is another classroom that a family set up for their kids. They have a first grader and a preschooler. And so they needed a place that was a little bit more colorful and had more of those crayons ready to go. But you can see how both of these spaces, we just kind of took corners of our houses and pulled up some tables and chairs and made it work, and also use your wall space. Here's another example of using a closet. I've been seeing this, a lot of people, even people who are working from home nowadays, are turning closets into office spaces. So it just kind of gives your kids a little bit more of a spot to know this is where I'm going to keep all of my stuff, and pull up a chair, and this is where I can do my work. Another thing to think about is the seating. When our kids are doing virtual learning and they're sitting in front of that screen for a long time, it's really important that their feet are flat on the floor so that you've got a nice 90-degree angle between your knees or on your knees and to the floor. And so look at different seating options. For us, another really good saving grace has been the ball chair that we purchased. Just using an exercise ball is fine if you have it, because my daughter wants to bounce a lot, and the bouncing has really helped her regulate herself. Kind of when she's starting to get tired, I noticed she can start bouncing a little bit, get her energy back up. So just kind of think about maybe having a couple of options. Your kids are getting wiggly and things, so they might get tired of sitting in that same chair all day long. At school, they're normally up. They move around a few times during the day, so we want to make sure that they're able to move and have some other options at home. And then when it talks about blocking out distractions, the easiest, most inexpensive way for us to block distractions in our house was putting up a big cardboard barrier. We actually ended up buying an appliance, and we had this wonderful big box, and I said, don't throw that away. We're going to use that for something, I'm sure. And it's become our wall in this big open space that we had in the room. So that helps separate the two spaces. So kind of just think about, is there a way that either, like I said, putting your back to something or somehow tune out distractions. I'll also point out that we made a special reading area just by putting up those little words that says reading takes you beyond the reef. My daughter's a big Moana fan. So that's her reading spot where Mickey and Minnie are, but that is where she knows she has to go to read her library books and things that we're doing for school. And that just kind of helps set that expectation for what she needed to do in that space. Thinking about organization, we might have lots of papers now, maybe some more than what you would normally have. Although I think this is sometimes a really nice thing to have all the time in your house when you want to keep your kids reading and math and writing papers all separate so you can find everything. So using some kind of a drawer system or something can be helpful to keep everything organized and labeled so you know where things are, including your supplies so that they'll be right there when you need them. The other thing that we've put on the top is that all done basket, so that when your kids are doing workbook pages or something they have to tear out, or I know for a lot of virtual learning, you have to take pictures of the work that the kids are completing. If you need all of those papers to be somewhere so they don't get lost and shoved into other books, put them in the all done box. And so that all done box or basket can have all the work that they completed for the day, so you can see what they're getting done and you'll have it all together. I also talked about keeping materials close by. So getting some containers to have those pens and markers and pencils and all, scissors and rulers and just everything. Kleenexes. If you have a child like mine, she can get up and get a Kleenex every 2 minutes. But if the Kleenex box is right there, we just kind of have to think through what can we have at our disposal so we don't have to keep getting up and down all the time. The other thing is using those labels. Those are just sticky notes on a drawer. We ended up emptying out a drawer cabinet that we had, and we decided to put some math manipulatives in there. We've got some our magnetic letters, those kinds of things that we use. So they're all in the drawers. We know where they are kept. So they're not going to be spending their day searching for things around the house. And then also, a lot of the virtual learning is done on iPads these days, and what better way to get out of doing your schoolwork than when your iPad isn't charged. So making sure that you set up a charging spot for that iPad so that every evening when school's done, You put it in the spot where it goes, you plug it in, and it's ready to go for the next day. Another great find that has kind of changed our world a little bit at our house is the dollar store pocket charts. These are all, so that pink chart is just $1 at the dollar store, and they have lots of different sizes of charts and colors, so you can choose your favorite color. But we are using them for calendars and schedules. Like I said, I knew that we were going to be home for the whole year, and I wanted to make sure we had some of the same things that she would see in a typical classroom. She's a second grader, so they're going to be using the calendar. So we've got a calendar that I just printed off pieces of paper with numbers and information. You could just handwrite this on cards if you wanted to. This wasn't set to be a calendar, but I made it into a calendar. So this entire thing cost me $1 because I had the paper and the printer at home. And this calendar, she just changes it every day. So we work on calendar skills. And then we're working on like, when is the weekend and when is it a school day? So the pink numbers are weekend days, and the yellow is a school day, and anything special that's happening would be we'll put a little blue card in as well. So you can use a simple calendar on your wall from the dollar store that can give your kids a lot of information. Another idea is giving choices. I know some of the kids are home and they probably don't feel like, doing their math or their reading or whatever it is right now. And we want to kind of minimize those arguments as much as we can. So for some kids, just having a choice as to what you want to do first. So this is an example of putting up a morning work schedule, and then or a choice board, and then they would have an afternoon choice. So obviously in the morning, you can do 20 minutes of language arts, 20 minutes of math, 20 minutes of writing, and read for 20 minutes. You put the magnet on it when you're finished, and then you know what work you have to do and what work you've finished. So this might work for some families as opposed to having some kind of a more rigid schedule where at 9 o'clock you do this and 9:30 you do this. Individual schedules, though, are great. And so here's another pocket folder that we have used from the dollar store. I just grabbed these images off of Google Images and made cards on my computer for all of the different activities or classes that my daughter is going to have. I also made sure to put in her Zoom meetings and the times, and frankly, the times written on those cards are more for me and the adults in the world than they are for her. But it's important to keep us all organized as to where we're supposed to be and at what time we're supposed to be logging into things. So I've got her meeting with her special education teacher listed down. I've got her speech therapy session. She's got her physical therapy session. So this just tells her all the work that she has to get done. And then when she finishes it, she has started turning the card around so that she knows that that activity is done. But this is the schedule that we do. And then we will set it first thing in the morning. So we talk about what today is going to look like, so she is prepared for the day. This is another, I just wanted to show you how you can put it all together as far as a family who, again, they used the closet to make the workspace for their son, but they've got the 5 days schedule a week at a glance, more so for the parents on the wall. So you can see what Ben's kindergarten schedule is, but then he gets his own daily schedule right at his workspace that's color coded, so he knows what he's supposed to be doing. They also included his special interest. This little boy adores fire trucks and everything that has to do with firemen and things. So they added some special interest there to make his workspace fun for him. And then his supplies are right there within reach as well.
So much like the rest of you, on March 13th, when our world completely took a different course there and school stopped and work schedules changed and all, having been home with my own 3 children every summer for the last 9 years, I understood the need for some sort of a schedule. Much like Amy, I had to rearrange the house. It was an extreme makeover TV show almost, where again, using those corners, really limiting those distractions, shutting blinds, rearranging bedrooms, rearranging any space that we had to try to get all 3 of my girls to be able to do work, to be able to focus, to be able to have downtime that meant something. We had to do much of the same things. But what I'm going to talk next most about is really the family schedule, the family master schedule. what each kid sees and some to-do lists. So on the left here, you guys probably saw this on social media at some point, this COVID schedule. And I love the idea of it, but right away I noticed in my family some things that weren't going to work. Are my wife and I both still have to work. With parent work schedule. This doesn't account for bad weather for some of these outside playtimes. And really, they didn't provide a whole lot of flexibility. So what we did is we found a old 2x3 whiteboard that you see on the right there in our basement, and we wrote the kids' names across the top, and we just hope to start structuring their day. So I'll talk about the big schedule here in a minute. We'll go next slide. So the first thing that we did is we had to put our big rocks in first, the things that were non-negotiable. I was expected to be working a couple hours each day. My wife had several meetings that she needed to do. So those are the big things that we tried to plan our day around. I was not able to move my office hours. She was not able to move some of her some of her calls there. So the kids have to know when we're unavailable. This helps us plan when is their downtime, when is their recess time. And this really helped our kids become a lot more flexible too. Jed Baker, who's the author of a book called No More Meltdowns, talks a lot about knowing your customer. And what he means by that is you need to know for your students, for your own children, when are their peak hours? When are their hours where they're not near as productive? So we had to plan our schedule in addition to around my wife and my work schedule. This would be the next phase. We started to write in things like, hey, I need an hour in the morning while you guys can watch a little TV while I get my stuff done. What we did here is we put all academic demands were in the blue-green color there. All chores were in yellow, and all leisure activities are in pink. I knew my oldest did the best in the morning, so I purposely planned the hardest part of her, which was math, when my wife and I were both available. On a given day, that might move until 1 o'clock if we had a different call that day. We had to have some sort of reinforcing schedule in there also. If we had an outdoor recess every day around 11, those morning lists had to get done first, though. We might have gone one too far. Okay, go ahead. We're good. This is another one that we created for another family that it was the same idea, but we used the Mayor Johnson board maker software to create some things that would happen every day. Bike rides, board games, work with mom, work with dad. Where my kids are readers and we're good with looking at just a written schedule, we could definitely use this for something for kids that weren't reading yet.
And Jared, I would just add that when I first saw this, when Jared shared it, it just really stood out to me because it's so important that our kids do have a good balance at home. So remembering that, yeah, there's school time, but you've got to make sure they've got their time for leisure and chores, and we might be able to change those a little bit depending on your child and what maybe they take naps in the afternoon. So you can add that into their schedule or something. Maybe they're fresher in the morning, so you want to make sure you're doing the school stuff more in the morning, but maybe they are better at doing some school things in the evening. And so you have that flexibility during your day, but just making sure you're giving them the right amount of time of all of these things to have a well-balanced day. So thanks for sharing that, Jared.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So along with a schedule, which kind of tells the kids, you know, they're going to do reading, they're going to do math, or, you know, mom's working at this time and we're going to have lunch at this time. Also, to-do lists can be very helpful. I know I have to write a to-do list every day for myself to make sure I'm accomplishing all of the things that I want to get done. So a to-do list will just basically, for our kids, it will answer 4 questions. It's going to tell them what work they have to do, how much work they have to do, when they're going to be finished, and what I should do next. And usually these are the questions that we get asked repeatedly, or they're the things that we're saying, you know, okay, what do you have to do next? Let's think through this. So for many of our kids, writing things down or somehow showing them these things visually will just help them stay more focused. So I wanted to show you a couple of ideas of what those to-do lists might look like. This would be one where you don't have to use anything. If your children can't, if they're not able to read at this point, that's fine. They can just use the objects. So you can either just lay out, you know, I want you to first brush your teeth and then comb your hair and then get dressed. You could do something like put your shirt on or something. You could have those things laid out in your bathroom. If you're going to go outside and have a recess time or go play in the park, you can just set out the activities in the right order. So we always try to go left to right, since kids learn to read left to right. It's kind of that natural progression. But first we're going to play with bubbles, then we'll play some catch, and then it will be time to the cup they can take in, and that will signal to them that it's time to have a snack so they can get something to drink. So that's just one real basic way to kind of lay out the activities you want to do, so kids know how much stuff you're going to do, and they also know when these two activities are done, then it's going to be time to end our recess time or go back inside. You can also just make a written list. This is just a written list on a sticky note. It tells me all the work that I have to do for math. I can see I have to do 5 things, and specifically I have to do like my skill review and the problem of the day. I know I'm finished when I've got everything checked off. All my boxes are checked off. And at the end, I wrote down, take a 15-minute break and then do spelling. So it tells me what I can do and then what I can do, what I'm going to be doing next or what's coming up. So this is another nice thing to do. I always say have plenty of sticky notes because you can use them for so many things. And then Jared,
we use the visual schedule. I'm sorry, the to-do list embedded within that visual schedule. So this is just on the right side is a sample of what my daughter's math assignment would be. There's something remarkably satisfying about checking off a list, making something going away, making something disappear. The other nice piece of this was this, again, the flexibility piece. If we didn't get everything done, we didn't get everything done, and that was fine. My older daughter was able to handle 5 things on a list at once, where some of my younger kids, if you see on the left side, those smaller blue lines were just individual assignments. This helps us schedule our downtime also. And then at the end of the day, we would always plan, hey, was there too much on there? Was there not enough on there? Did they have downtime? Did this work? So very useful tool for our family. And let's not forget chores. Besides the schoolwork, we need to get some chores in place. And if it's anything like your family, my household, everybody is hungry about 15 minutes before lunch, not during lunch, and about 15 minutes after lunch. So we had to make some visual supports for our family. On the left there, the kitchen is closed. I had my daughter that asked me nonstop for snacks, help me make that sign so that she had some buy-in with it. The nice thing about the way this sign is set up also, it just happened. When you open it and you shut it, I can tell by the paper being crumpled up whether they were in there or not, kind of a built-in alarm. But this really helped to decide, hey, when are snack time, when is the kitchen closed? On the right side there, I realized that when I mentioned, hey, you need to clean up the room, you need to clean up the living room, it was just way too much for them. So each of my girls gets a chair, and sometimes I just grab the stuff and throw it on the chair, and I say, then on your schedule, when it says straighten chairs, that's what I mean there. So it gives them a kind of like a to-do. It's like Amy was talking about. It tells me how much work, how many pieces do I need to put away, when am I done when the chair is all empty? And then they would look at their schedule to figure out what they were doing next.
the other thing that we're talking about too, when we were going through, different home routines, is that especially for the kids that are going back and forth between being at school sometimes and being home sometimes, is trying to keep that regular morning routine where you wake up and you get dressed and then you have breakfast and you start at a certain time. I think it's very easy for the kids to want to sleep in because it almost feels like it's a weekend day or it's a holiday because, I'm at home all day. So I can wear my pajamas all day. But it is really helpful to start making sure you're being good about having those morning routines set and the expectations set, so that on a weekday, if I'm going to the school building, I'm going to get up at the same time that I'm going to get up when I'm at home, and then save the weekend for the more relaxed, okay, you don't have to get dressed anytime soon on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever your routines are. But just making sure you're kind of really thinking about keeping your kids in as much of a routine as possible to help with their sleep schedule and making sure they're understanding what the expectation is for the day. Okay, some additional supports that we thought of that were just really helpful. I talked with a number of families, and these are some of the things that have been some really, really good things that they've put into place. Using visual supports. We know our kids with autism are definitely going to need, even some kids without autism, but they just need those visual supports to understand what the expectations are, what the rules are. We want to use them as reminders of things they need to get done. Sometimes we'll talk about timers in a little bit. And then thinking about the break times. Break time is important for our work, but it can also be one of the bigger challenges because it's hard to get the kids to come back to work once they've gone away from it. So I'm going to give you some ideas about that. And then just other manipulatives that you can use for reading and math that you may just already have around your house. So using a timer, you can kind of think about it in two different ways. So one of the ways up in the corner by Jesse is a visual timer, and that is something where when you move it, the red will soon disappear, and that shows the passage of time. So I would use that if I was going to say, okay, you need to work for 15 minutes or for 10 minutes, and then when the red's gone and the alarm goes off, it's time to stop. In this case, I will point out that my daughter is a huge Toy Story fan, so that's why Jessie sits next to the timer, kind of also draws her attention to the timer. But there's also the rule in place that if Jessie is messed with, then we lose Jessie, and she can't come to school with us anymore. So that in a way is a little bit of a motivation to do what's supposed to be done with the timer and use it. And I'll let Jared talk about the clocks, the way he uses them.
Yeah, so we use a lot of Post-its in our house. And if you can see the pink Post-its on the bottom there, this is another way to show time and elapsed time there. So a lot of times what I'll do is at 8:05, I'll say, hey kids, TV's gonna be off when the big hand gets to the pink Post-it note. We're gonna brush our teeth and read the story. So by doing that, we set up the reinforcing schedule already that there's something good coming up after you brush your teeth. What I really like to do is the bonus where I look like the good guy is when I come in at 8:35 and I say, oh my goodness, I gave you guys 5 extra minutes on accident there. They're less likely to argue about that 5 minutes. We use this for, hey, dinner's going to be ready when the big hand gets on the 8. I just need 10 minutes. I put the Post-it note up and say, you guys can come talk to me in 10 minutes. We use this for the kitchen's closed. We'll put it up on the minute hand and say, when the big hand gets here, this is when the kitchen's opened. Help setting limits help them structure their time with, you need to straighten your room for 15 minutes. What might that look like?
Okay, so other visual supports that can be helpful for kids, especially during all of these Zoom meetings that they're having, is just, again, using some clip art from computer, and then you can print those off, tape them right to the screen that your child is using. So here's an example of some that are Zoom, the little icons to understand, okay, is my mic on or off, or video on or off, which I know many children are all becoming experts on now. But then also some reminders about expectations during those Zoom meetings. So you need to look at the camera or look at the computer screen. You need to listen, you need to talk loudly. I have a lot of kids that I've worked with that are using a really, really quiet voice and their teachers can't hear what they're saying. So making sure they're working on speaking up and speaking loudly, or what's an appropriate volume. Also, you might want to have one that says, talk more quietly if your kids are screaming at their computer. And then sit in your chair, or maybe you'll have one that says face the computer, whatever is meaningful to your kiddos. But we, have so many that like to crawl around on the underneath the table or whatever they're at. And so we would just want to make sure that we are reinforcing those expected behaviors for them during their Zoom meetings. And then when I talked earlier, I mentioned about the break times. And so one idea that you could use is putting some fun activities that your kids enjoy that, are relaxing, that are going to be able to be completed in a shorter amount of time, so that they can differentiate between when is it playtime, when can I go and, get my toys and have a great time with my Barbie dolls or my cars or whatever I like to play with. But then this would indicate, okay, I'm just, we're going to do math and then we might do reading. So we're only going to take a 10-15 minute break. So maybe we'll just get out a little bit of Play-Doh. Maybe we'll get just a coloring page to do or one puzzle to complete. And so by putting them in this tub that's a break time box or something, then you're keeping that stuff separate from their other toys. So first of all, there could be some fun stuff that you could put in there that they won't have seen before. maybe some surprises. So making it interesting. It's not the same toys that they're going to play with every day, but these are going to be shorter activities and maybe more on the tabletop activities if your child is working at a table, so they're not getting up and running around. And I know a lot of kids I've worked with, once their body goes flat on the floor, then they are in the comfort mode and it's very hard to get them back up. So save that for when you have like a good hour of downtime where you can roll around on the floor and go do whatever you want to do. This is just a real quick, get some fidgets, do something else. Other times, these are good times for the doing like a little brain break on the computer. A lot of teachers are sending those where they can get up and do a song or something like that. Same kind of idea, just with some toys. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention is, remember that you have a lot of things around your house that are great manipulatives if you are suddenly finding yourself in the situation where you are becoming the teacher, and your kids are hands-on kids that need access to more of these kinds of things, and you feel like that's hard because they're at home now and they don't have all those materials that they would be using in the classroom. But we have a lot of things. The dollar store is the new educational store, so some of this stuff can be purchased at the dollar store, but I have a feeling a lot of it you just will have if you look around your house. So working on place value, use a napkin and silverware holder. I just took paper and taped it to there, and we just got some straws that are different colors, and we start every day we put a straw in and we work on our place value each day. That's not uncommon to something that a younger elementary would be doing anyways, but no matter what age your kids are, if they need to work on place value, napkin silverware holder is great with some straws. Using Tupperware containers to put sand in so that they can write their letters in the sand. That can be helpful. Legos are great. They can be used for so many math activities and things, and the dollar store happens to sell sets of Legos, so you can even keep them separate for their Legos that they would play with normally to build with things. So that way you won't have any concerns that they're going to just start wanting to make their big Star Wars ships or whatever they're into building with Legos. And also I will tell you that the dollar store Legos do not fit with regular Legos. So it's a nice way to keep them separate. But nevertheless, the Legos are really helpful, math manipulative. So kind of think about that. If your child's doing a math, oftentimes they need some manipulatives for math, but whether it's reading or something else, or maybe the handwriting thing's not working for them. We have lots of other sensory options that we can do. A lot of teachers will let their kids write their spelling words, practice spelling words, whether they write in sand or they write in shaving cream or something. You've got, I'm sure you have pans that you could fill with shaving cream if you want to do something like that in your house to have your kids write the spelling words or something. So we can all be creative and use items that we have around the house to make learning opportunities for our kids. So I just, like I said, I hope that we just gave you some ideas. This was just a real quick, get your mind thinking about, if your kids are going to be home soon, or if what you're doing is not working, maybe we gave you some ideas to try to make things a little bit better. We will be posting things on Facebook. We've got a Pinterest board that you can always look for ideas on. We are on Twitter, and we are just beginning to get more involved in Instagram. So there's lots of ways that we hope that we can give you ideas if you need it. And again, we're here for you. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate to email Kathy Pratt or myself, and we will definitely look forward to chatting with you and helping you structure your home for your kiddos.